I used to believe it was just me and my mom against the world. Then she took the money my dad left me and bought a house for her new family. Now she treats me like I'm an obstacle to her happiness. So I need you to picture how my mom used to call me just to tell me a random story from the grocery store. Like it mattered. Like I mattered. That was my mom for most of my life. We were not perfect, but we were close in that everyday way that feels unbreakable when you are young. If I had a bad day at work, she would be the person I texted. If she had a bad day, she would show up at my tiny apartment with takeout and act like it was a surprise, even though we both knew she was rescuing me. She would sit on my couch, kick off her shoes and say, talk like she had all the time in the world. Then she started dating this guy. I am Kayla, and I am not even going to pretend I saw the wrecking ball coming. I did not. At first it was normal. She was excited. She wore lipstick again. She played music in the kitchen. I was happy for her because after my dad died, she basically went on autopilot for years, and I thought finally she is breathing again. The guy was polite in that stiff way, like he had read a handbook called How to Be Acceptable in Front of Someone Else's Kid. He always smiled too long. He always said my name like he was practicing it. He had a daughter from his first marriage, and she was only a little older than me, which made the whole thing feel less like a new stepfamily and more like a forced group project. Her vibe was glossy, like she always knew what she was doing, always knew what to say, always knew how to be the center of a room without looking like she was trying. If that sounds bitter, it is. I am not a saint. At first, I tried. I did the dinners, the awkward small talk, the how's work conversations that felt like chewing cardboard. I tried to be normal about my mom being happy with someone who was not my dad. I told myself I was being mature. And for a minute, I thought it would settle into something workable. But then, my mom started changing in tiny, quiet ways that did not make sense until all the tiny things added up. The calls that used to be about her day turned into calls that were really updates about him and his daughter. If I said I had a rough day, she would go, "Oh, honey. Anyway, he has been so stressed at work." If I said I was sick, she would say, "You know who has been sick, her. Poor thing." If I told her I was thinking about going back to school or changing jobs, she would say, "That is nice," and then pivot to what his daughter was doing like it was breaking news. The first holiday season after he moved in, my mom did this thing that felt small to everyone else and gigantic to me. We were opening gifts in the living room, and his daughter got an expensive gift wrapped in glossy paper, the kind of gift you plan budget for. I got a generic bag with a scented candle and a pair of fuzzy socks clearly grabbed last minute from a display near the checkout. My mom said, "I thought you would like cozy stuff," and smiled like she had nailed it. I stared at the candle and had to swallow that bitter little thought like, wow, I am officially the afterthought. I remember sitting in my car after one of those calls, staring at my steering wheel, feeling this weird, hot embarrassment like I had just been dumped and did not want to admit it, because how do you even say, my mom does not really want me anymore? I was an adult with bills and a job and an entire life, and I still felt like a kid getting replaced. By the time I was 19, it was obvious my mom was not just dating him, she was orbiting him, and his daughter, she became the favorite. I kept trying anyway. Yes, I know. Do not roll your eyes at me. I tried because it was my mom, and because losing my dad already felt like a hole I would never fill, and I could not handle the idea of losing her too. So I smiled through it. I showed up, I played nice, I told myself it was temporary, I told myself once they were settled, she would remember I existed. Spoiler, she did not. The thing about my mom's new family was that it came with rules I never agreed to, and somehow I was expected to act grateful for them. The guy did not like me. Not in a we do not vibe way, but in a quiet, strategic way, like my presence was a stain he wanted to lift out of the carpet. He did not pick fights in front of my mom, he did it in the gaps. He would sigh when I walked into a room. He would forget to tell me dinner was ready. He would make these comments about space, privacy, respect, like I was a guest who had overstayed her welcome in my own childhood home. The blow-up happened on a random weeknight. I had come home late from work exhausted, and I walked into the kitchen and saw his daughter's mail on the counter. Not just a letter like a whole stack. She did not even live there full-time yet, but suddenly she had a key. And suddenly, she had packages. And suddenly there were photos of her taped to the fridge like she had been there forever. I made a comment, a dumb comment, something like, "Wow, she has really moved in fast." And that was all it took. He turned to me with this calm, icy face and said something about how the energy in the house had been tense since I was around, and how his daughter did not feel comfortable, and how adults make sacrifices for relationships. He did not yell. That would have been honest. He talked like he was giving a lecture, like he was being reasonable. And I felt my chest start to burn because I could see where it was going. I looked at my mom for backup. I waited for her to do what she used to do, which was defend me even when I was wrong. Even when she was annoyed and she just looked away. She stared at the sink like it had the answers. Then she said quietly, "Maybe it is time you think about your own place." I swear my brain went blank for a second. I heard the words, but they did not connect. Because, what do you mean my own place? I had always planned to move out. Sure, but I thought it would be on my timeline, not because I was inconvenient to her new husband. I said something like, "Are you serious?" And she shrugged like she was asking me to take out the trash. I did not handle it with grace. I snapped. I cried. I said ugly things I still remember in the shower like a highlight reel of shame. I accused her of replacing me. I called him controlling. I told his daughter she was acting like a parasite. Yes, I know, gross, but I was hurt and furious and 19 and suddenly homeless in my own head. My mom's face went hard. He smiled, and within a week I was gone. I moved into my boyfriend's apartment with my stuff in garbage bags, pretending it was romantic, pretending it was a fresh start. It was not. It was survival. And every time I lay awake at night in a room that did not feel like mine, I kept thinking, she let this happen. She let me go. She did not even fight. And the worst part, she called me 2 days later like nothing happened. Just, "Hey, did you get settled?" In that casual voice, like she had lent me a sweater, not kicked me out of her life. Living with my boyfriend was supposed to be the part where I leveled up into adulthood. You know, split rent, build a routine, stop eating cereal for dinner every night. And some of it was good. He was kind in a steady way that made me feel safe, even when I was a mess. He let me cry in his bathroom without making it about him. He just said, "I am here," and then actually stayed. My boyfriend and I started working extra hours because surprise living costs money. I picked up side shifts at a coffee shop near our apartment, and I would come home smelling like espresso and regret. And my boyfriend would be at the table with his laptop open doing overtime paperwork. We were tired in that normal, boring way. We were building something. My mom never came over. Not once. She would say, "Oh, it is such a drive," which was hilarious because she would drive farther than that to help his daughter move a lamp. I found out because she told me proud like she was collecting points. Almost 2 years after I moved in, my boyfriend proposed. Not in some movie way, but in our living room after we had spent the day running errands and arguing gently about laundry. He was nervous, which was honestly adorable. And he said, "I want you in my life forever," like he was choosing me on purpose. I said yes, obviously. I cried, obviously. I was happy. And I also felt this dumb, hopeful ache because I thought, maybe now, maybe my mom will care now, maybe this will force her to show up. I should have known better. I know. I know we were not planning some giant fancy wedding, but we also were not trying to get married in a parking lot. We wanted something normal, a small venue, decent food, a dress that did not feel like a costume, a playlist that would not make our friends cringe. We were being practical, which is the funniest thing to say right before your family lights your life on fire. My dad had left money behind, not millions, not some secret fortune, just a set amount he had saved over time, meant to help me with school and later with a wedding if I ever wanted one. He died when I was younger, and my mom had always kept the paperwork because I was a kid, and she said it was safer that way. It was set up as a designated account for my future college, a wedding, whatever I needed. And because I was a kid when my dad died, my mom's name was on it like a custodial thing. When I turned 18, I never transferred it. I trusted her. Yes, I hear you. Yes, I was naive. But I was also grieving, and I wanted to trust at least one adult in my life. I had used some of it for college expenses. The rest was supposed to be my cushion for the wedding. So when my boyfriend and I started looking at deposits, I texted my mom and asked for the account details. I expected a normal conversation. I expected mild drama. Maybe her acting offended that I did not include her enough. I expected her to say something about how weddings are stressful. I did not expect what I got. She replied like it was no big deal. Just, "Oh honey, I used that money. We needed it." I remember reading it twice then, 3 times, like the letters would rearrange themselves into something less horrifying. My hands went cold. I was sitting on my couch and my boyfriend was in the kitchen washing dishes, humming to himself. And I just stared at my phone like it had slapped me. I texted back, "Used it for what?" And she said, "For the down payment. It was a great opportunity for her. You will understand when you are older." Her as in his daughter, as in the girl who smirked at me like I was a stain, as in the girl my mom had been chasing like a lost friend. I stood up so fast I got dizzy, and I walked into the kitchen, and my boyfriend looked at my face and immediately shut the water off because he could tell something was wrong. I told him. I could not even keep my voice steady. I kept saying, she used it. She used it like a broken toy. He asked how much. I told him in words because apparently that is my life now. And he went pale. We called my mom. She answered like she was expecting us. And she sounded irritated like we were interrupting her evening. I asked her, why would you take money my dad left for me? And she said, I did not take it. I used it. It is still in the family. She actually said that like I should be grateful my dead dad's money went to buy someone else a house. I started yelling. My boyfriend told me to breathe. My mom told me I was being dramatic. Then she did that thing where she tries to flip the emotional script and make herself the victim. She said she was under pressure. She said her husband was worried about his daughter's future. She said I was selfish. She said you have a fiancé. You are fine. And then she hit me with, your father would have wanted us to help her. That is when I started shaking, like full body shaking, because my dad was not here to say anything and she was using him like a prop. I hung up. I threw my phone on the couch. I cried so hard my face hurt. My boyfriend sat next to me and wrapped his arms around me, and I kept thinking, my mom stole from me. My mom, the woman who used to bring me soup when I was sick. And suddenly the wedding was not just a wedding, it was proof of whether I mattered at all. A few days after the phone call from hell, my mom invited me to a little gathering. She did not say housewarming, but that is what it was. She framed it like a peace offering, like, come over, we will talk. I am sure we can figure something out. I should have said no. I should have stayed home and eaten ice cream and blocked her number for a while. But part of me wanted to see it. Part of me wanted proof of what she had done because my brain kept trying to deny it. It is this fun little thing trauma does where it goes. Maybe you misunderstood. Maybe you are being dramatic. Spoiler, I was not. So my boyfriend and I drove there. The house was nice. And here is the part that still makes my stomach twist. He bought that house in his own name, then told everyone it was for his daughter, even though it was really where he and my mom lived. The down payment came from my dad's money. Money that was supposed to be mine. Not a mansion, not some ridiculous celebrity thing, but nice in a way that made my stomach twist because I could picture exactly what my dad's money had gone into. New paint, fresh flooring, a kitchen that did not have that sad old apartment smell. There were balloons, there were snacks on trays, there were people smiling and saying congratulations like they were not standing inside a lie. His daughter was glowing. She walked around like a tour guide showing people every room, every closet, every corner, like she had built it with her own hands. She kept throwing these looks at my mom like she was waiting for applause, and my mom kept giving it like a trained seal. When they introduced me to people, they said my first name like I was a cousin who had stopped by, not the daughter who had been pushed out. My mom pulled me aside and said, "Is not it great? She finally has something stable." I stared at her and said, "With my money." And she got that tight smile again and said, "It is not just yours, it was meant for family." Then she offered her solution. She said, "We can do something simple for your wedding. You can use the backyard at the house. We will put up lights. It will be cute." Like she was offering me a discount party package. Like it was generous. Like I should clap. I said, "So you take the money and then you offer me your backyard as a consolation prize." And my mom's husband swooped in like he had been waiting. He said something about adulthood and expectations and how kids these days want everything. He actually called me a kid. I am standing there with a job and rent and a ring on my finger, and he calls me a kid. His daughter drifted closer, pretending to listen innocently. And then she said, "Honestly, a backyard wedding is really charming. It will look great in pictures." She said it like she was doing me a favor, like she was educating me on trends. I wanted to scream. Instead, I did that thing where you laugh because you are about to cry. I said, "You are so generous," in the most sarcastic tone I have ever used in my life, and my mom shot me a look like I had slapped her. I felt my boyfriend's hand on my back steadying me because he could tell I was about to go nuclear. We left early. In the car, I stared out the window and watched houses blur by thinking about how unfair it felt that my dad was gone and she was still here spending his last gift like it was loose change. I cried quietly because if I cried loud, I knew I would start screaming, and I did not trust myself not to drive straight back and ruin the whole party. That night, my mom texted me a smiley face. A smiley face like we had had a cute little disagreement. I threw my phone on the bed and said out loud, "I hate her." And then immediately felt sick because I never thought I would say that about my mother. But I did, and I meant it. After that, my mom went into full performance mode. She started calling more, leaving these sugary voice messages like we were close again, like we were in some sitcom where the misunderstanding gets wrapped up in 20 minutes. She would say things like, "I miss you and we need to get you excited again." And every time I listened, I felt this mix of rage and embarrassment because it sounded like she missed the version of me that did not ask questions. Then she invited me back over, saying she wanted to talk woman to woman. My boyfriend came with me because he did not trust them. And honestly, neither did I. We walked into the house and it was like nothing had happened. My mom was smiling, his daughter was lounging on the couch, and my mom's husband was acting like he was doing us a favor by letting us breathe the same air. My mom sat me down and said, "I have been thinking, we need to make your wedding special, even if it is smaller." And for a second, my stupid heart jumped because I thought maybe she is going to offer something real. Maybe she is going to apologize. "Nope," she said. "What if she is your main bridesmaid? It would show everyone how blended and healthy our family is." I stared at her. I actually checked my mom's face for signs she was joking. She was not. His daughter did this little smile like she had just won something. She said, "I would love to help you. I have such good taste and I can plan everything." She said it like she was announcing she would rescue me from my own incompetence. That is when something in me snapped. Not like a dramatic movie snap, more like I felt all the years of being ignored pile up in my chest at the same time, and there was nowhere to put it. I said, "You stole from me." I said it loud. I said it in front of all of them. Because I was done pretending. My mom tried to hush me. She said, "Do not say it like that." And I said, "How should I say it? You took money my dad left for me, and you used it to buy her a house, and now you want her to be my bridesmaid? Like we are all besties. Are you out of your mind?" His daughter's face went red. She stood up and said, "It was not stealing, it was an investment." And I laughed this sharp, ugly sound and said, "You are not an investment. You are my mom's obsession." My mom's husband stepped in. He got that calm lecture voice again and said I was disrespectful. And I said, "You kicked me out." He said it was for the good of the household, and I said, "No, it was for the good of your ego." Then my mom started crying, which felt almost insulting because she cried like she had been wounded, like she was the victim. And I was standing there feeling like my insides were on fire. My boyfriend tried to pull me back, whispering, "Let us go." But I was not done. I told my mom she had abandoned me. I told her she had turned into someone I did not recognize. I told her I did not care if she was embarrassed. And then his daughter said, "If you are going to act like this, you can leave." Like it was her house, her rules, her authority. I looked at my mom again. I waited. I waited for her to say, "No, this is my daughter." I waited for anything. She did not. She just stared at me with tears on her cheeks and said, "Please stop." So I stopped. I grabbed my purse, walked out, and I heard his daughter lock the door behind me. I heard it, that little click, like I was an intruder. In the car, I did not cry right away. I just sat there shaking hands on the steering wheel, staring at the street. Then I started sobbing so hard I could not breathe. My boyfriend kept saying, "It is not your fault." And I kept thinking, it kind of is because I let her do this for years. I kept hoping she would choose me. And every time she did not, I acted surprised. By the time we got home, I was exhausted in my bones. I told myself I was done. I told myself I was not going to chase her anymore. And then my mom called me the next day like nothing happened again. That is when I realized this was not going to end with a heartfelt conversation. This was going to end with something breaking. I went quiet for a while after that. No calls, no texts, no "maybe we can talk," just silence. It was not some noble boundary-setting moment. It was me protecting the last thread of sanity I had left. I muted my mom's contact. I stopped checking the family group chat I had barely been included in anyway. I focused on work on wedding planning with the money we actually had on basic survival. A week into my silence, my boyfriend came home with this weird expression like he had stepped in something gross. He set his bag down, sat next to me and said, "I got something in the mail, not email, actual mail." He pulled out an envelope with photos inside, printed photos. The picture showed a woman who looked like me kissing a guy who was not my boyfriend. It was in a parking lot. It was blurry, but clear enough to make your brain do that quick panic math. There were multiple angles. I went cold. I stared at them, and for half a second I could not even speak. Then my boyfriend said, "I do not believe it." Just like that. No yelling, no accusations. He said it like he was stating a fact. And the relief hit me so hard I had to put the photos down and hold my head because I thought I was going to throw up. We sat there and went through them slowly. The more I looked, the more it felt wrong. The lighting was off, The face angle was weird. The hair was close, but not mine. My boyfriend pointed out tiny details. He said, "Your mole is not there." We knew who did it. The envelope had a local postmark, and inside there was a little order slip from a photo print counter in the same rounded handwriting I had seen on her birthday cards. It was just enough to make my skin go cold because it meant she was planning it. Later, I discovered my mom was cheating with his daughter's boyfriend. I found out when I pretended to reconcile and grabbed her phone. There was a notification banner, a message with a heart emoji. The messages were intimate. They were about missing each other, about sneaking time, about kisses, about how risky it was. There were jokes about his daughter being clueless. There were even messages where my mom said she wished she had met him first. I took screenshots. I sent them to myself. I wiped my tracks. Then my mom called my name from the kitchen. "Do you want coffee?" I swallowed, locked the phone, handed it back, and said, "Sure." In this calm voice that did not sound like mine, I sat there sipping coffee, nodding through small talk while my brain screamed. I watched his daughter lean into her boyfriend and laugh completely unaware. I watched my mom glance at her husband and act affectionate like she was not cheating with the girl's boyfriend. I watched a whole fake family smile in a living room bought with my dad's money, and I felt this cold clarity settle in my chest. They did not just hurt me, they were rotten all the way through. His daughter then texted me. Not my mom, his daughter. She wrote, "Hey, I am doing a big birthday thing at the house. Mom said you are good at organizing. Can you help?" The audacity almost made me laugh. She wanted me to help plan a party in a house partly bought with money stolen from me for her birthday while my mom was sneaking around with her boyfriend. I said yes. For the next few weeks, I became her unpaid assistant. I drove across town to pick up decorations. I ran errands after work. I listened to her talk about herself like she was the most interesting person alive. She treated me like a servant and a sibling at the same time. She would say, "You are lucky you get to be involved." And I would smile and swallow my rage. I would go home and vent to my boyfriend until my throat hurt. My mom was suddenly everywhere again, but not for me, for the party. She was obsessed with making it perfect. She kept talking about how the house felt like a fresh start for their family. She also mentioned casually that using my dad's money for the down payment did not magically erase the monthly bill, and she had been covering part of the payments for now. One night during planning, my mom showed me a digital slideshow she had made for the birthday full of photos of his daughter through the years. Baby pictures, school pictures, vacation shots. It was sweet in a normal way, and that is what made it so sick. I nodded and said, "It is cute." And inside a plan started forming. If my mom wanted a slideshow, she would get one, just not the one she made. I created a new slideshow on my own laptop using the cheating screenshots, adding captions so there was no misunderstanding. I saved it under a boring file name. Party day arrived like a storm. The house was packed with noise and cheap perfume and the smell of food sitting out too long. People showed up with gifts and fake smiles. His daughter was in a dress that screamed, "Look at me." And she floated through the rooms like she was hosting a talk show. My mom was glowing too. She kept touching his daughter's arm, laughing too hard. I stayed near the edges, helping with food, pretending I was just the helpful almost sister. My boyfriend stayed close, but not too close. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I kept touching my pocket, making sure my flash drive was still there. The laptop was in the living room connected to a projector. My mom had put it there like a centerpiece. She was guarding it. Finally, the universe gave me a crack. His daughter's boyfriend asked my mom to talk in the hallway. Her husband went outside to smoke. His daughter ran to the kitchen because someone said the cake needed cutting. The laptop was alone and open. I moved like I was on autopilot. I walked to the laptop, smiled at the closest guest like I belonged there, slid the flash drive in and dropped my file right on top of hers. When it asked if I wanted to replace it, I clicked yes. I yanked the drive out and stepped away just as my mom came back into the room. She did not notice. She walked straight to the laptop and patted it like a pet. My knees went weak. I went to the bathroom and sat on the edge of the tub with my hands over my mouth, breathing like I had just run a marathon. I came out in time for the speech. My mom clinked a glass with a spoon and people quieted down. She started talking about how proud she was, how grateful she was, how family is everything. Then she said, "And now we have a little slideshow of memories." The lights dimmed. The projector turned on. The first slide was a screenshot of my mom's messages to the boyfriend with his name right there in the thread. The room went dead silent. Then more messages appeared. A line about meeting up, a line about missing his mouth, a line about how his daughter would never know. I watched his daughter's face change from confusion to disbelief, to this slow dawning horror. The boyfriend went pale. My mom's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She looked around like it could not be her life on the wall. People started whispering. Someone said, "Is that real?" Someone else said, "Oh my God." And then his daughter turned to her boyfriend and screamed his name so loud it made my skin prickle. Chaos erupted. His daughter started yelling at her boyfriend and he kept stuttering, saying, "It is not what it looks like." She grabbed his shirt and demanded his phone and he refused. Then she swung a sharp slap loud enough that several people gasped. My mom rushed forward, hands out, saying, "Stop, stop!" in this high, panicked voice, and his daughter turned on her like a wild animal. She screamed at my mom, calling her disgusting, calling her names that were brutal. My mom tried to cry her way out of it. She kept saying, "I did not mean for it to happen." She kept trying to touch his daughter's arm, and his daughter shoved her away so hard my mom stumbled. Her husband finally came back inside and looked at the projector screen, and then at my mom, and then at the boyfriend, and you could see it click. His face went so cold it scared me. He walked straight up to my mom and said, "Get out." Just 2 words flat. Dead. My mom started babbling, "Please let me explain." And he said louder, "Get out of my house." People were recording on their phones. His daughter was sobbing now. Loud, messy sobs. The projector kept rolling through message after message because nobody had the presence of mind to turn it off. My boyfriend found me in the corner and put his arm around me. The officers showed up calm and bored. They told everyone to step back. Lower voices stopped pushing. They basically told my mom to leave, and told the boyfriend to leave, and told the guests to stop filming. His daughter sat on the stairs, shaking mascara streaked, holding her knees like a child. My mom stood in the doorway, stunned, looking around for someone to save her. She looked at me at one point. Our eyes met, and I swear in that second she knew. She did not say my name. She just stared, and I stared back. Then she walked out into the night like the ground had finally vanished under her feet. His daughter blocked him on everything, tossed his stuff out onto the lawn, and made sure everyone knew what he had done. He tried posting something vague, but people tore him apart. He vanished. I went home afterward and threw up in my sink. The next morning, my phone was a disaster. My mom had left voice messages all night. At first, they were angry. Then they shifted into pleading. Then they got weirdly sentimental. "I am still your mother." My mom's husband filed for divorce fast. The house had been in his name from the start. She lost the house she had been treating like her trophy. His daughter cut her off immediately. She sent a message to my mom that was basically, "You ruined my life." And then she blocked her. My mom tried to crawl back to me like I was her backup plan. She texted about how lonely she was. She said she had made a mistake. She said she did not mean to hurt me. She never once said, "I stole your father's money." Not directly. Meanwhile, the wedding was still in limbo because deposits were due and we were short. We postponed the wedding a few months and got help from my boyfriend's parents. They offered it gently. His mom just said, "We want you two to start your marriage without this shadow." I talked to a lawyer. I explained that my dad left me money, my mom had access, and she used it without my consent. The lawyer asked if I had paperwork, and I did. The process was forms, phone calls, waiting. It was boring. The judge ordered monthly repayment. When the first payment hit my account, I stared at it like it was fake. Then I forwarded it straight to my boyfriend's parents. I needed to pay them back. I needed to feel like I was not living on someone else's kindness forever. Over the months that followed, the fallout kept unfolding. My mom's divorce became official. It was not gentle. She had to move again. People who used to praise her started avoiding her. Without my mom contributing to the mortgage anymore, he could not afford to keep the house. He put the house on the market. My relationship with my mom's side of the family basically evaporated. Some relatives blamed me for humiliating her. My boyfriend's parents kept showing up. They checked on me. They invited us over for dinner. They treated me like I belonged. By the time I finished paying them back, I cried in my car. I sent his parents a message saying, "We are square." And his mom replied with, "We were never keeping score." My mom kept trying. She would send messages on holidays. She would say she missed me. She would say she had changed. She would leave voicemails where her voice sounded small. One night, 11 months after the party, she left a long voice message. She said she knew it was me who swapped the slideshow. She said she did not blame me. Then she asked straight up, "Did you do it? I need to hear it from you." I listened to that message 3 times. I felt like 2 versions of myself were fighting. The older one knew that answering would reopen the door. So I did not. I deleted the message. I blocked her number for real this time. Not as punishment, as protection. And here is the part that might surprise you. I do not feel victorious. I do not feel like some hero who taught her a lesson. I feel like someone who finally stopped setting herself on fire to keep her mother warm. I feel like someone who learned painfully that love without boundaries is just slow self-destruction. Sometimes late at night, I still miss her, or I miss who she used to be, or I miss the idea of her. But missing someone does not mean you have to let them back in. So that is where it ended. Not with forgiveness, not with a reunion, just with a locked door, a quiet apartment, a marriage I fought for, and the kind of peace you earn when you finally accept that some people will never love you the way you deserve, even if they gave birth to you.